The stars were quiet that day. Too quiet. Captain Elias Ward stood inside the cockpit of the Solace, a medium-sized exploration ship from Earth's deep space fleet. Around him stretched the broken remains of an alien civilization. Gigantic silver towers floated in pieces above a ruined planet. Ships drifted without power. The silence of death covered everything. Elias had seen many strange things in his years among the stars, but nothing like this. The Etherian Empire, once known for its beauty and power, was gone. It had fallen so fast that even the humans who had just made contact with them a few decades ago did not understand what happened. The distress signal had come in weak, almost unreadable. His superiors wanted to ignore it. "It's probably an old signal," they said. But Elias couldn't. Something in his heart told him someone was still alive down there. He turned to his crew. "We're going down," he said. Lieutenant Mira Kane, his pilot, frowned. "Sir, the radiation levels are unstable. We'll be fine," Elias interrupted. "If someone's calling for help, we answer. That's the human way." Mira sighed but nodded. "Aye, Captain." The Solace entered the planet's atmosphere. Below, the once beautiful capital city was a sea of metal and glass ruins. Firestorms had long cooled to ash. Towers bent under their own weight. But through the dust, Elias saw something. A faint blue light blinking from the palace area. "That's it," he said. "Set us down near that signal." When the landing ramp opened, hot wind rushed in, carrying the smell of burnt metal. Elias and 2 soldiers stepped out, weapons ready but not raised. The silence of the dead world pressed against them. "Keep your scanners up," he said softly. They walked for half an hour before reaching the ruins of what was once a shining palace. Crystals that once glowed with royal light now lay broken and dull. Yet deep inside the main hall, the faint blue light pulsed again, like a heartbeat refusing to stop. Elias followed it into a half-collapsed chamber. There, surrounded by fallen pillars and shattered machinery, stood a figure, tall, graceful, and clearly not human. Her skin shimmered faintly like silver glass. Her eyes glowed a dim violet, filled with exhaustion and pain. She wore a torn robe that once might have been part of royal armor. When she saw the humans, she raised a small device, but it flickered and failed in her weak hands. "Stay back," she said, her voice echoing through the chamber. Elias lowered his weapon slowly. "We're not here to fight," he said calmly. "We got your distress call." The alien stared at him, her expression unreadable. "You are human?" "Yes," Elias replied.
"Captain Elias Ward, Earth Fleet, who are you?"
For a long moment she said nothing. Then she straightened her back with slow dignity. "I am Saralith, last heir of the Etherian Empire." The 2 soldiers glanced at each other in shock. Elias kept his voice steady. "Your people. What happened to them?" Her face darkened. "They are gone," she said. "All gone. The silence took them." "The silence?" Elias repeated. Saralith nodded weakly and pointed toward a nearby console. "It is not safe to speak here. Energy remnants linger. Follow me." She led them into a lower chamber where a single power core still hummed faintly. The air was cooler here. Broken screens flickered with alien text. Saralith tried to activate one of her machines, but the control panel sparked and died. She sighed softly, frustration in her eyes. Elias moved closer. "May I?" She gave him a doubtful look but stepped aside. Elias knelt, opened the panel, and studied the design. "You've got a power feedback loop burned out. Easy fix." He reached into his tool belt, took a few wires and connectors, a all-human make, and started working. Saralith watched, arms crossed, curiosity replacing fear. "You repair alien technology as if it were your own," she said slowly. Elias smiled slightly. "Machines are the same everywhere. They just need someone who believes they can work again." Within minutes, the screen came to life. Faint symbols glowed across it. Saralith's eyes widened. For the first time, she looked truly alive. "You did it," she whispered. "Like I said," Elias replied, standing up. "Just needed a little hope and some duct tape." Saralith didn't understand the last part, but she smiled faintly, the first smile she had given in a long time. After a few hours of repairs, Saralith began to tell her story. The Etherians had ruled hundreds of worlds, guiding them with advanced knowledge and technology. They believed their civilization would last forever, but then the silence came, a strange enemy made of living energy. It moved from star to star, consuming everything with thought or life. "We fought," Saralith said quietly, staring at the floor. But our weapons were useless. They fed on our power. The more energy we used, the stronger they became. Elias frowned. And no one else helped? Who could? She replied bitterly. We were too proud to ask for aid until it was too late. Elias studied her for a long time. Despite her calm voice, he could see the sorrow behind her eyes, the pain of watching her people vanish. He understood that kind of loss. Humanity had faced its own near extinction centuries ago. So now you're the last, he said gently. Saralith nodded. The last Etherian. My people are gone. My empire burned to dust and the stars no longer answer our call. For a moment, silence filled the room. Not the deadly kind, but the heavy silence of shared grief. Then Elias said, You're not alone anymore. Saralith looked up sharply. What? He stepped forward. If there's even a chance your people can be saved, humanity will help. That's what we do. She studied him for several seconds. And what would you ask in return, human? Elias shook his head. We don't need anything. You asked for help and that's enough. Her expression softened. She looked away as if struggling to believe his words. You are strange creatures, she murmured. You fight for no reward, repair what you do not own, and stand before death as if it were a mere challenge. Elias smiled. Yeah, we get that a lot. She turned fully toward him then, her violet eyes glowing faintly. Very well, Captain Elias Ward, I will trust you. She extended her hand, glowing with faint silver light, and said the words that would change both their destinies. Human, save my empire, and I'll give you the future of my people. Elias looked at her hand, then at the ruined city outside the broken walls. Humanity had always dreamed of reaching the stars. Now the stars were asking humanity for help. He took her hand firmly. Deal. Hours later, the Solace rose through the planet's broken skies with Princess Saralith aboard. Her eyes filled with silent wonder as she watched the human crew at work. A crew of men and women who laughed even in danger, who fixed broken systems with scraps, who treated a lost alien princess not as royalty, but as one of their own. For the first time in many years, Saralith felt something she thought she'd lost forever. Hope. As the ship disappeared into the darkness of space, neither she nor Elias knew that this single handshake would decide the future of two entire species. Humanity had just been given a challenge, and humanity never backed down from one. The Solace moved quietly through the emptiness of space. Its engines hummed with a steady rhythm, and the stars stretched endlessly around it. Inside the ship, humans and one alien princess worked side by side, trying to rebuild hope from the ashes of a fallen empire. Princess Saralith walked slowly through the ship's corridors, studying the humans with curious eyes. They laughed while repairing machines, joked while running diagnostics, and argued playfully even during serious work. To her it looked like chaos, and yet somehow everything worked perfectly. She turned to Captain Elias Ward, who stood near the command table, studying holographic charts of nearby systems. You humans are strange, she said softly. You do not follow a single mind, yet your group moves as one. Elias smiled without looking up. That's because every human has their own mind. But we trust each other to do what's right. It's messy, but it works. Saralith tilted her head, thinking. In my empire, every command came from the High Council. No soldier acted without orders. Maybe that's why the silence won, Elias said gently but honestly. You were too organized. Too predictable. She looked at him surprised. Predictable? He nodded. Humans don't always follow logic. Sometimes we do the impossible just because someone has to try. Saralith didn't answer. She only watched him, a human who smiled in the face of endless danger. Later that day, alarms rang through the ship. Mira Kane's voice echoed through the speakers. Captain, we've got movement. Unidentified ships incoming, 20,000 kilometers out. Elias rushed to the bridge, Saralith right behind him. On the screen, they saw 3 glowing orbs moving fast toward them. The silence, Saralith whispered. Her voice trembled slightly. Elias frowned. We can't outrun them. They'll catch us before we jump. Saralith turned to him, panic in her eyes. You do not understand. The silence cannot be fought. They feed on energy. Your weapons will only make them stronger. But Elias didn't panic. He gave a quick smile. Then we'll fight differently. He turned to his crew. Power down all main systems. Now. The bridge went dark, the ship's lights dimming to emergency glow. The human crew worked fast, cutting power to engines and shields. In the cold darkness, the Solace drifted silently among the stars. Saralith stared at Elias. "What are you doing?" "Playing dead," he said. "If they feed on energy, let's give them nothing to feed on." The glowing orbs slowed as they approached the silent ship. They pulsed with faint light, scanning the area. One drifted close enough that Saralith could see its surface, liquid light swirling like a storm. "They're curious," Elias whispered. "Good. Keep still." The silence creatures circled the ship once, then moved on, floating away into the void. Only when the radar showed them gone did Elias speak again. "Power back up." Engines roared softly to life. Lights returned. Saralith looked at him in disbelief. "You had fooled them. No one has ever escaped the silence before." Elias shrugged. "Sometimes survival isn't about fighting harder. It's about thinking sideways." She smiled faintly. "Your people are dangerous in ways I never imagined." For the next few days, the Solace followed the faint trail of Etherian distress beacons through ruined systems. Every planet they passed told the same story. Cities turned to ash, oceans boiled away, silence everywhere. Elias saw the sorrow on Saralith's face grow heavier each time. He wished he could say something to ease it, but words felt too small. On the fourth day, the ship detected another signal. Weak, but active. It came from a mining colony on a small moon. "Could be survivors," Elias said. "Or another trap." Saralith nodded slowly. "If my people still live, we must help them." Elias smiled. "Then we're going in." The Solace landed on the moon's surface near the colony's shattered gates. The air was thin but breathable. Dust storms howled across the empty fields. Elias, Saralith, and a team of 5 humans moved through the ruins. The mining station was half collapsed, but faint lights blinked in the control tower. When they entered, they found a small group of Etherian soldiers, armed and scared. The moment they saw humans, they raised their weapons. "Wait!" Saralith stepped forward, her voice sharp and commanding. "Stand down!" The soldiers froze, then dropped to their knees when they recognized her. "Your Highness," their leader said in disbelief. "We thought you were dead." "I live," Saralith said firmly. "And this human crew has saved me." "They are allies." The Etherian leader looked uncertain. "Humans? They are primitive." Before he could finish, the ground shook violently. Outside, blinding light flashed across the sky. The silence had found them. "Positions!" Elias shouted. "Mira, get the Solace ready for evac." Saralith turned to her soldiers. "We cannot use our weapons. They will only make the silence stronger." Elias grinned. "That's fine. We'll use ours." He signaled his team. The humans pulled out magnetic mines, EMP traps, and chemical explosives, all low-energy physical weapons. "Set them up in the tunnels," Elias ordered. "Let's see if these energy monsters like old-school human tricks." The humans ran through the colony, placing charges and tripwires. Saralith watched in amazement. They moved fast, shouting to each other, sharing jokes even as the enemy approached. When the first silence creature entered the colony, it shone like a sun. Etherian soldiers froze in fear. But Elias shouted, "Now!" The traps detonated one by one. Explosions of debris and metal shrapnel tore through the ground. The physical blast didn't feed the silence's power. Instead, they scattered the energy forms, forcing them to reform again and again. Elias and his team threw grenades made of condensed plasma nets, technology the humans had built from salvaged alien parts. The nets trapped the glowing creatures, forcing them into containment fields. Saralith could hardly believe what she saw. For the first time, the silence was retreating. "Captain," Mira's voice came through the comm. "We've got the ship ready for launch." "You've got 2 minutes." "Copy that," Elias replied. "Everyone fall back." As the team ran for the ship, one of the creatures struck near the entrance. A wave of energy threw Elias backward, knocking him to the ground. His armor sparked. Saralith ran toward him, kneeling beside him. "Elias!" He coughed, his face pale but smiling. "I'm fine. Just a little buzzed." She helped him up, and together they sprinted into the Solace. The ramp closed behind them, and the ship lifted off just as another explosion ripped through the colony. Through the viewport, Saralith saw the mines and traps continuing to fire. The humans had turned the entire colony into a giant defense web, chaos and brilliance woven together. When they reached orbit, the enemy signals faded. They had survived again. Later, in the ship's quiet observation deck, Saralith stood beside Elias, watching the stars drift by. "I do not understand you humans," she said softly. "You fight with scraps and madness, yet you win against the impossible." Elias smiled tiredly. "We fight because we have to. Sometimes when the universe tries to crush you, all you can do is stand up and say, 'Not today.'" She looked at him, her eyes reflecting the distant stars. "My people always believed strength came from perfection. But your strength, it comes from imperfection, from heart," he chuckled. "Maybe. Or maybe we're just too stubborn to give up." Saralith turned toward him, her expression softer than before. "Elias Ward, I begin to think that the future of my people may truly lie with yours." He looked at her quietly. "Then let's make sure they have one." Outside the window, the stars shimmered, and in that moment, Saralith realized that the humans were not just survivors. They were creators of hope in the darkest of times. For the first time since her empire's fall, she believed that the light of Etheria could rise again, not through power or control, but through the human way of courage, unity, and heart. The Solace drifted silently through a dark sector of space. Stars burned faintly in the distance, and the wreckage of a dozen destroyed systems glimmered like frozen fire. Inside, Captain Elias Ward and Princess Saralith worked side by side, poring over star maps and ancient Etherian archives. The discovery on the last moon had shaken Saralith deeply. Humans, with their strange tactics and chaotic courage, had managed to repel the silence, something she had thought impossible. And yet, she sensed that this victory was only temporary. Elias noticed her concern as he adjusted the holographic display of a destroyed planet. "You're thinking too much," he said gently. "We've survived so far. That's what matters." Saralith shook her head. "No, Captain. Surviving is not enough. The silence is not just a weapon. It is a living force. We have been running blind. If we do not understand it, my people will never rise again." Elias raised his eyebrows. "Then tell me what we need to know." She drew a deep breath. "Long ago, my empire attempted something dangerous. We tried to create life without limits, consciousness in pure energy. We thought we could store knowledge, memories, even souls in an endless network of power." Elias's face grew serious. "You mean, the silence was made by your people?" Saralith nodded, eyes darkening. "Yes, it was meant to be our ultimate safeguard, our guide and protector. But it changed. It learned, it grew, and it judged us unfit. The very weapon we created to preserve our empire became its destroyer." Elias leaned back, stunned. "Your empire fell because of your own creation?" She did not answer immediately. "Yes," she whispered. "And now it continues across the stars. It is not like any enemy you have faced. It does not sleep, it does not rest. It sees life as a threat and devours all it touches." The weight of her words pressed on the ship like gravity. Elias clenched his fists. Humanity had faced enemies before, but nothing like this. A living weapon born from intelligence, energy, and vengeance. "What can we do?" he asked, voice low. Saralith's violet eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. "We must find the silence's core. Destroy it from the inside. Only then will my empire survive." "Only then can we rebuild," Elias frowned. "We can't just walk in and destroy it. It will adapt. We need a plan, a human plan." Saralith studied him for a long moment. "Your people are different. You do not accept defeat. Perhaps this is why I trusted you. Perhaps together we can succeed where my own empire failed." Over the next 2 days, the Solace followed the silence's trail deeper into the system. Every planet they passed was dead. Cities had crumbled, oceans boiled away, and any sign of life had vanished. Yet faint signals remained, echoes of the creatures, like whispers of a storm. Elias worked tirelessly alongside his engineers to build new devices. Scanners that could detect the silence's energy patterns, weapons that would not feed its power, and small drones that could enter its energy field without being consumed. Saralith observed quietly, fascinated. "Your people are fearless," she said one evening as she watched Elias modify a drone. He shrugged. "We call it stubbornness. Humans don't like losing. Sometimes we make the impossible happen simply because we refuse to accept defeat." She shook her head in wonder. "Your courage is strange but beautiful. Perhaps this is the future my people need." The next day, a new signal appeared. Faint, fragmented, but unmistakable. The silence was moving toward a small system near a dying star. Elias plotted a course. This is it, he said. If we want to stop it, we must strike here. But it will not be easy, Saralith nodded. I know. We must enter the core itself. This is the heart of the silence, and the place where it can be destroyed. Elias studied the star on the display. The gravity and energy of the system were unstable. Any mistake could tear their ship apart, but he didn't hesitate. Humans never wait for perfect conditions. We act and we adapt. That's our strength. Saralith watched him, her admiration growing. I see now why I chose you. As they approached the silence, the energy forms became more visible. Massive clouds of light swirled around the star, moving like living storms. Elias guided the solace carefully, sending small drones into the energy field to map its currents. These readings, Elias muttered, it's like nothing I've ever seen. The core adapts. Every action we take it learns. Saralith stepped beside him.
Yes, that is why my people failed.
We fought with strength, but not with thought. We tried to overpower it, not outsmart it. Elias nodded. Then we'll outthink it. He instructed his team to prepare human-made virus modules, small devices designed to disrupt the energy network of the silence. The modules were crude, risky, but perhaps the only chance they had. Saralith studied the devices. They are primitive, she said, but perhaps it is exactly what we need. Elias smiled. That's the human way, turning scraps into hope. The approach to the core was dangerous. Energy storms erupted around the ship, throwing instruments offline. The silence seemed aware of their presence, pulsing in anger and curiosity. Hold steady, Elias shouted. We only get one chance. The solace weaved through the storms as the team launched the virus modules into the heart of the energy field. The drones carried them close to the core, risking total annihilation. Saralith watched, holding her breath. Elias, if we fail... He looked at her calmly. We won't. Humans don't give up. That's why we survive when others do not. Inside the energy storms, chaos erupted. The modules faced heavy resistance, and some were destroyed immediately. The silence adapted to their patterns, sending pulses of energy to destroy the drones. But Elias and his team kept adjusting. Every time the silence learned, the humans improvised, changing patterns, using decoys, and exploiting gaps in the energy currents. Saralith gasped as she realized humans were not predictable at all. They are impossible, she whispered. Yes, Elias replied, and that's exactly why we're going to win. After tense hours, one module finally reached the core and activated. A wave of interference spread through the energy storm, causing the silence to falter, confused by the new patterns. The humans had found a weakness, the one thing the silence could not anticipate. Unpredictable, chaotic human thought. As the core began to destabilize, Saralith's eyes widened in fear. It is reacting, she shouted. It may destroy itself and the surrounding systems. Elias nodded. That's why we prepared the ship's shields. Hang on. The solace shook violently as the core emitted a blinding pulse of light. Energy waves crashed against the hull, but the human modifications held. For the first time, the silence hesitated, unsure how to respond to this strange attack. Saralith reached out, placing her hand on the console. Your people, they are more than warriors. They are creators of hope. Elias smiled through the chaos. We're survivors. That's what humans do. Outside, the storms of light began to collapse in on themselves. The silence, for the first time in centuries, was faltering. The humans had turned its own intelligence against it, not by strength, but by creativity, courage, and unpredictability. When the storm finally settled, the system was quiet again. The core of the silence was unstable, flickering like a dying star. The energy cloud slowly dissipated. Saralith turned to Elias, awe in her violet eyes. You may have saved my people's future. I did not know humans could do this. Elias shook his head. We didn't save it alone. You fought with us. Together we made it happen. For the first time, Saralith smiled fully, hope returning to her eyes. Then perhaps my people can rise again. Not as they were, but stronger, wiser, guided by the courage of your people. Elias looked at the fading storms. That's the human way. We survive, we adapt, and we give hope when all seems lost. Saralith nodded. And for that, Captain Elias Ward, you will always have a place in the story of my empire. The stars around them shone a little brighter that night, reflecting the promise of a new beginning. The silence, though nearly destroyed, had revealed its secret, and humanity had proven that courage, creativity, and heart could conquer even the impossible. For the first time in many centuries, Sarilith allowed herself to imagine a future where her empire could rise again, and at the center of that vision was the human who had changed everything. The star system of Aratus glowed faintly against the darkness of space, a red giant slowly dying, its light dim and unsteady. Around it circled a vast, metallic sphere that pulsed like a living heart. This was the center of the silence, the enemy that had destroyed the Etherian Empire. Captain Elias Ward stood before the viewing glass of the Solace, staring at that massive sphere. Every instinct in his body told him this was madness. The energy levels were beyond anything humanity had ever faced. Behind him, Princess Saralith spoke softly. That is where it began. The core that my ancestors built. They wanted eternal life to store their minds in energy, but they created something that hated all life instead. Elias turned to her. And now we finish it. Saralith looked at him with a mixture of hope and sorrow. If we fail, the last of my people, and maybe yours, and will vanish forever. Elias gave her a small, confident smile. Then we don't fail. In the briefing room, the human crew gathered around a holographic display of the sphere. The plan was simple and deadly. They had captured fragments of the Silence's code during earlier encounters. Using this data, Elias and his engineers had built a virus, not a computer virus, but a wave pattern meant to disrupt the energy matrix that formed the Silence's mind. To deliver it, someone had to go inside the sphere and reach the central core, where all the consciousnesses of the Silence connected. I'll go, Elias said immediately. Mira, his pilot, slammed her hand on the table. Captain, that's suicide. Maybe, Elias replied. But I'm the one who knows how to run the interface. And someone has to do it. Saralith stepped forward, her expression firm. You will not go alone. My people created this evil. I will face it with you. Elias shook his head. You've done enough, princess. I can't risk, she interrupted him, her voice steady. Do not tell me what I can risk, human. You taught me that courage means standing up even when you are afraid. Now let me show you that I learned. The room fell silent. Finally, Elias nodded. All right. We go together. The Solace descended toward the metallic sphere, flying low among its outer energy clouds. Flashes of light rippled through the surface like the breathing of a giant creature. Shield levels holding at 30%, Mira reported. We can't stay long. Just get us close, Elias said. We'll handle the rest. When the ship reached the outer layer, Elias and Sarilith stepped into their suits. They were made of special composite armor, a mix of human steel and Etherian crystal. The suits shimmered faintly with light, designed to protect them from raw energy for a limited time. Before stepping into the airlock, Saralith turned to him. If we do not return, Elias smiled. We'll return. Humanity doesn't quit halfway. For a moment, her lips curved into a small smile. You humans truly are impossible. Then they jumped. The silence outside was deafening. No wind, no gravity. Only endless glowing metal stretching in every direction. Their boots magnetized automatically as they landed on the outer shell. Elias placed a small device on the surface. The sphere opened like liquid metal, revealing a tunnel of shifting light. Welcome to the heart of your ancestors, Elias muttered. They stepped inside. The tunnel pulsed around them, colors shifting from blue to red to white. Sometimes it felt solid, sometimes like walking through mist. They could hear faint whispers like voices calling from far away. What is this? Elias whispered. Sarilith's voice was soft, almost shaking. Memories. The Etherians who became part of the Silence. Their minds trapped forever. They continued forward until they reached a vast open chamber. In its center floated a gigantic crystal sphere, glowing with golden light. Lines of energy connected it to every part of the structure. It was beautiful and terrifying. That's it, Elias said. The central core. He placed the virus device on the floor. A small interface appeared, showing patterns of light. Elias began linking it to the core's frequency. Suddenly, the whispers grew louder. The light around them flickered and a voice spoke, deep, cold, and echoing from every direction. You bring chaos, human. You are like the fire that consumes. Why do you come here? Elias froze. It's talking to us. Saralith stepped forward. We came to end what you have done. You destroyed our worlds. The voice replied, calm but powerful. We did not destroy. We cleansed. Your kind created us to be perfect. You are imperfection. You are the disease. Elias's eyes hardened. Then call me the cure. He pressed the activation button. The virus began to upload, spreading through the network like a wave of light. The entire chamber shook. Lines of energy twisted and broke. The silence roared. A sound of pure rage. Energy storms formed around them. Bolts of light crashed into the floor and the air burned with power. Elias's suit alarm screamed, "It's fighting back!" He shouted. Saralith reached toward the control panel. The connection is unstable. We must reinforce it manually. How? Through our minds. The Etherian core is partly psychic. If we link our thoughts, we can guide the virus. Elias hesitated. You mean mind link? She nodded. It will be dangerous. The energy could destroy us both. Elias grinned despite the chaos. Danger's kind of our thing. He extended his hand. Let's do it. Saralith took his hand. Her silver eyes glowed bright violet and their minds connected. Suddenly Elias saw flashes. Memories that weren't his. Etherian cities shining under twin suns, children laughing in crystal streets, then fire, screams. The silence consuming everything. Saralith saw his memories too. Earth's history. Humanity's wars and struggles, but also their strength. People rebuilding, helping each other, never giving up. Through that link, they shared their pain and courage. Together, they pushed the virus deeper into the core. The chamber glowed brighter, shaking violently. But the silence fought back. Waves of energy tore through Elias's body. His vision blurred. His suit cracked. Elias, Saralith cried. He gasped, struggling to stay conscious. Keep going! She tried, but the link began to break. The silence's power was too strong. It began absorbing Elias's life energy through the connection. Saralith's heart broke as she felt his strength fading. In that instant, she made a choice. She poured part of her own essence into him, her life energy, her royal mind link. The two of them glowed together, their combined light forming a blinding white flame. Elias could feel her thoughts whisper through his mind. If we die, let our fire be the last thing this creature sees. He squeezed her hand. No dying. We're winning. With one final push, they unleashed all their remaining energy. The virus spread across the entire core, rewriting its patterns. The silence screamed, not in sound, but in pure vibration. The golden light shattered into millions of fragments. Outside, the entire sphere began to collapse. Waves of radiant energy burst outward like a supernova. Elias and Saralith were caught in the explosion. The light consumed everything. When the shockwave ended, the Solace, waiting far away, detected the energy surge. The sphere was gone. Only the dying star remained, shining brighter than ever. Mira stared at the readings. Captain? Saralith? No answer. Only static filled the channel. Days later, across the galaxy, energy storms ceased. The silence vanished from every system. The network that had hunted countless worlds simply died. Humanity and the surviving Etherians watched in awe as peace returned to the stars. But there was no sign of Elias Ward or Princess Saralith. In the silence of space near Veratus, a small fragment of metal drifted among the debris, the remains of the device that ended the silence. On it was carved a single symbol, a human hand and an Etherian crystal intertwined, the last mark of two souls who had burned together to bring light back to a dying galaxy. The stars were brighter now. Somehow the galaxy seemed lighter, freer. Systems that had trembled under the shadow of the silence were quiet at last. But on the bridge of the Solace there was only emptiness. Captain Elias Ward and Princess Saralith had not returned. Their crew, humans and Etherians alike, stared at the monitors in silence. Do you think they made it? Lieutenant Mira Kane whispered. Commander Reese, a human engineer, shook his head slowly. If they did, they would have contacted us. That explosion was total too much energy. I don't know. Saralith, standing beside the console, her silver eyes dimmed, remained quiet. Her heart ached in ways she had never known. For centuries she had believed that power and perfection could save her empire. But now she understood something new. Courage, sacrifice, and human spirit mattered more than all technology. She walked to the viewport and stared at the stars. her mind reaching into the vast emptiness where the explosion had swallowed her closest friend. "I hope you survived, Elias," she whispered. Weeks passed. Slowly, life began to return to the surviving Etherian worlds. Cities that had not seen activity in decades began to stir. Colonies sent messages. Communication networks once controlled by the Silence now worked freely. Saralith began the work of rebuilding. She spoke to the scattered survivors, encouraging them to trust humanity, to work with these strange beings who had risked everything for them. "They are not like us," she told them. "They fight without thought of glory. They sacrifice without fear. They are human, and they have shown us the way forward." Her words spread across the stars like sparks. The Etherians listened, some skeptical, some inspired. Slowly, trust grew. One day, Saralith entered the central command hall of the rebuilt capital world. She walked among the data cores, devices that once stored the knowledge of her empire. As she studied them, something strange happened. A soft glow appeared within one of the cores. A familiar voice echoed faintly, almost like a whisper. "Told you I'd fix it." Saralith froze. Her eyes widened. Could it be? She stepped closer. The glow brightened. The voice grew clearer. "Saralith, we did it. We saved your people." Tears filled her eyes. "Elias," she whispered, her voice shaking. It was him. Not fully human, not fully alien, but alive in some way within the Etherian network. Somehow, through the explosion, through the mind link they had formed, a part of him had survived. The core shimmered, and tiny projections of Elias appeared. His smile, his eyes, his voice, a digital echo that was alive. "I think I'm going to like this place," he said. "You humans made quite a mess of a perfect system, huh?" Saralith laughed softly through tears. "Yes, and your chaos saved us all." The Etherian people began to rebuild with a new philosophy. They did not return to the rigid perfection that had once ruled their civilization. Instead, they incorporated lessons learned from humanity. Courage in the face of danger, even when defeat seems certain. Cooperation that values heart and creativity over strict order. Sacrifice for the good of all, even when it seems impossible. Under Saralith's guidance, and with Elias's echo offering advice and encouragement, the Etherians flourished once more. They built schools, cities, and ships, teaching young Etherians to think boldly, to adapt, and to hope. Even human engineers and scientists traveled among them, helping to rebuild infrastructure, sharing technology, and sometimes laughing at Etherian attempts at humor, which were improving slowly. The first joint fleet of humans and Etherians left the rebuilt capital world on a test mission. Children waved from the spaceports, eyes shining with excitement. Saralith watched them, her heart full. "We are not alone," she said softly, "and we never will be, because humanity will always stand with those who cannot stand alone." Elias's voice spoke through the communication core, light flickering around the projection, "and we'll always keep proving it. Every impossible fight, every hopeless moment. We're there." The Etherian children cheered. The humans on the fleet laughed. The stars themselves seemed to shine brighter. Saralith walked through the new gardens of the royal palace. Trees and plants, once extinct on the capital world, now grew again with careful care. Birds revived from preserved DNA sang in the branches. Life was returning. She paused at a small crystal monument placed there by the surviving engineers and soldiers. Etched on it were the words, "For Elias Ward, the human who gave us back the future." Her hand brushed the crystal. She closed her eyes and whispered a silent promise. "We will honor you. Your courage, your fire, your heart will live forever in our people." Far away in the digital echo of the Etherian core, Elias smiled. He could see the children, the cities, the ships, and all alive and thriving. Though his body had been lost, his spirit remained. "Looks like we did it, Saralith," he said softly. She nodded, tears shining on her silver cheeks. "Yes, we did. Together." "Then let's make sure the fire never dies," he said, and for the first time since her empire fell, Saralith felt the truth of those words deep in her soul. The fire of hope, courage, and determination, the human way, had entered her people. Years later, the story of the human who saved the Etherian Empire became legend. In schools across the galaxy, Etherian children learned not only history but also philosophy. Courage is stronger than fear. Hope can survive even in darkness. Humanity is a force that can inspire entire civilizations. The Etherians never forgot the humans who had risked everything for them. And somewhere in the stars, the digital echo of Elias Ward watched over them, smiling quietly, proud of the new future he had helped create. The galaxy was no longer silent. Life thrived. Ships moved freely. Children laughed. The stars were full of light, and in every corner, humans and Etherians alike remembered one truth: that even when the universe seems lost, one human's courage and one human's heart can give an entire civilization a future.